We are live. What's up, everybody? This is Whisky in the Six. I'm Rob. Over here with my friend Jacob. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing even better after I got this package on what was it? Thursday or Friday night. It was unexpected to say the least, but definitely welcomed and really excited about some of these things. So.
Well, I knew we were going to do something like this, and I had to get you some of the sneak preview of some of the really funky stuff that might only be available in BC. So I had to make sure that our friends out east were able to look at it, taste it, try it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I have in front of the audience here is the Ripple Rock Part 2, which many of the people that will be joining tonight have probably watched my video the videos that I basically ran through, 10 Shelter Point whiskeys. And Ripple Rock was one of my favorite from day one. And then I have the 10-year-old Prohibition. I actually have the other 10-year-olds that I bought a while back. It's behind me on the bar. Maybe I should grab that at some point to do a little head-to-head comparison. But this one, it says Isla casks. Are we allowed to reveal what those Isla casks are, or is that still kind of secretive?
I can't say it, but if you say it, I will nod my head yes or no. You guessed the right one.
I suspect that this is finished in Ardbeg casks, but I could be wrong. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
The cask.
Yeah. And then we got a 53% batch 3 of Smoke Point. I should say, actually, the 10-year-old is cask strength or it's brought down a bit?
The 10-year Prohibition should be cask strength. Yeah.
Yeah. So 56.9 is the 10-year-old cask strength Prohibition. And then at the far end over here, the Montfort there's probably Montfort. Yeah. I always want to say like Montfort and Sons, like that kind of like pronunciation, but I don't know. These guys are unique because they're coming from very specific sections of your farm, correct?
The first a few batches were. The difference between the new release of Montfort is that it's just our barley. We didn't go through each district lot just because we wanted to make sure we were putting out the best spirit that we could possibly put out, and then limiting ourselves on barrels was just sort of hampering us. We wanted to make sure that we could just put something out that was going to be premium, unmalted raw barley that really stands out within the marketplace for single grain whiskeys. So this is the first batch that doesn't have an associated district lot number. Okay. On the back of the bottle, our farm lot number still should be on there, I believe. Still has
latitude. Longitude.
And that takes us to right beside the distillery field, and or the field closest to the distillery. So when we get people coming through at nighttime, looking up those digits on their phone, they're coming and they're seeing the distillery opposed to the middle of the property like they used to. So less trespassing or more effective trespassing now, because now we bring them into the distillery, we show them everything we're doing. They tend to buy a bottle before we take them home.
Nice. Awesome. As far as the rest of the expressions, then you're still getting the barley from your farms as well, or is some of it sourced?
As much as possible, we use from the farm. Like this year or last year, we didn't grow barley. We every 5-6 years we stop growing, or we don't grow barley. We grow other cereal crops or like corn as a cover crop, just so we can make sure that we're putting efficient nutrients back within our fields. Because when you do just 6 straight years of barley, you'll notice your yields start to plummet. So, 2.25 ton per acre is top level. The last year we harvested, we were getting like 1.25 tons. So we just need to rest the fields. Certain cereal diseases will go if you don't replant something else. So you really want to change up kind of exactly what you're growing within your field. So, but as much as possible, every year we're looking to use 300 to 400 tons of barley sourced right from our farm. And then the rest of the barley comes from BC.
Right on. Okay, cool. Couple of comments in the chat. Shelter Point, hell yes, from Donald Rance. And then Cars and Cubes is saying, Jacob, the jacket weave. Rocking the holiday spirit. I was gonna comment on that blazer.
I got pants that match it, but my wife doesn't let me leave the house in it. She says it's something about being embarrassing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, I'm gonna start over here with the Ripple Rock Part 2. Anything in particular we should look for differences wise, or did you guys try to keep this as similar as possible to the first release?
So it's a little bit different than the first release. So the first release was a 7-year-old single malt. And what was really interesting about that particular batch is we did just like a raw experiment. We had bought virgin oak barrels because a few of us here at the distillery, myself, Leon Webb, and Patrick Evans, the founder, we kind of sat together and we had this idea that if we bought brand new virgin oak casks, we could be our own source of casks in a way. So instead of relying on getting barrels from Jack Daniels or Heaven Hills or Maker's Mark for consistency, could we season our own casks with releasing a very, strong flavored, almost bourbon essence single malt. So Ripple Rock Batch 1 was the first experiment to see what that would taste like. Mm-hmm. Now, it was only a finish. It wasn't a full maturation. So it was 5 years in bourbon, 2 years in virgin oak. This batch is 6 casks, 3 of which spent their whole life in virgin oak, 3 of which spent their whole life in bourbon, because the whole life of virgin oak was still quite aggressive as a flavor, almost too much for your palate. So Leon had went through the warehouse and he sourced some casks to kind of fill in what was maybe missing from the previous casks from the virgin oak, because there's certain things that you get from bourbon barrels that you just don't get from anything else, some of that sweetness level that you just need to really kind of tie over your whiskey. So Leon Webb was a big part of that, and our other distiller, James Marinas, they kind of put their heads together to really come together to make this whiskey. And it's I don't do very much in the sense of picking the whiskeys. I have a brand. I'm like, here's what I want. Here's what I need. Can you guys go make this for me, please? Nice. And then they do all the hard work. I just take all the credit.
And honestly, it drinks beautifully. There's like zero heat to it whatsoever. 46% unchill filtered, all those great things that we love about you guys. Beautiful sweetness to it. And you can tell like there's definitely some other things going on as well. The French oak cask for 75 days, were those wine casks or?
For which one?
Or was that also virgin oak? It says 75 days in French oak casks from our local BC winery coastal. This is the Ripple Rock, right? Yeah, the Ripple Rock. Unless that's a typo.
That seems like a typo to me.
Yeah.
We'll look at another bottle of Ripple Rock. No, so some of the whiskey was aged a little bit in French oak because we do source casks from Coastal Black Winery.
Right. Yeah. That's because it's a similar maturation to the double oak batch 6. Let me just grab that bottle.
Yeah.
Here's my walking away from the camera. I have a couple. I should grab all of them actually.
You only have a handful of Shelter Point there, right? Only 10 bottles. Only
about like 25 bottles of Shelter Point altogether.
Yeah, just a couple.
Just a few. So that's the inaugural, I guess you can call it, 10-year-old that was made. It's a cask strength. Yeah. Then this is the batch 6 double barrel, and this had some virgin oak as well, finished in French oak.
Yeah.
And then it's not gonna all show up on camera. And then I got my own the collaboration that we did together, the single cask peat.
Yeah. That's that one sold out very quickly.
That one went quick. Yeah, it was.
That's all because of you, though, Rob.
Honestly, I really don't think I had anything to do with it because it was announced, and then before I even had a chance to like promote it, it was sold out. So.
That's not what I've been telling people. I said it was all Rob. He did all of them. He picked the perfect cask. After the marketing, he just blew it off the shelf for us.
Honestly, I love that cask, though. I mean, I know it's different, and it's probably something that I don't even know if you guys have done something similar to this yet, like with the malted wheat and single grain barley combination. But I love it. I think it's fantastic. And the fact that it's like peated and like it's like a strong kind of peat too. I really like it.
Yeah, more on the mineral side opposed to more of that lighter kind of essencey, almost I-90. Like it's a better peat, I think.
Yeah.
Or the peat that I look for when I'm looking for whiskeys.
Yeah, it's interesting. I honestly, everybody I've given it to loved it. So unless they're just being really nice, like we said, it sold out very quick. So
yeah, it lasted about 4 or 5 hours on the website.
that's crazy. That blows my mind. Which tells me that we got to do this again sometime.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for sure, that's going to be something we have to do again next year. We probably have to start prepping now.
Yeah.
Really, should be getting some more samples to you.
Yeah, let me know. I'm always game for something like that. That would be awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah. So as far as like the process goes, when you get so right now you're in the distillation
distillery,
room, right? Yeah, you're in the distillery. There's
Spirit Safe behind me.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you have the Spirit Safe behind you. I have some new make that I just pulled out of the 12 Days of Christmas
calendar. I think I have some probably sitting beside, or I got some new make in front of me.
I got some new make. So I think we should try some new make together.
Oh, absolutely. We could try some new make. I actually like drinking new make quite a bit.
I do too.
It's something that no one really gets to try. I have a little bottle in front of me.
Yeah, I got the same one. I got it's from the calendar. So
yeah.
Let people see. So this is 63%, correct?
Yeah. So we did that. This is essentially, I pulled this out of the barreling line. So we had our whiskey that was already kind of vatted down because it's coming out of the still in the mid to high 70% usually.
Okay.
So we put it to 63 before we put it into a barrel, typically.
Right on.
It's different grains. We do different ABVs sometimes. Like we play around with wheat a little bit more, bringing it down to all the way to 53% going into a cask, just to experiment. I mean, that's one of my favorite things about Shelter Point is you're allowed to try a lot of things here. There's not a lot of like, if you have a good idea, Patrick just kind of lets you go with it. And
that's awesome.
There's the worst case scenario is that in 3 years, if you put something in at a low ABV and it's not working, you just vat it out with something that's a higher ABV. You kind of do 2 experiments at once. Do one at 53, do one at 70, so that if they don't work later on, you can just blend them together and there's no bad ideas. Patrick always says, never let fear and good judgment get in the way.
That's awesome. I love that saying.
So this is a double distilled, 100% barley from BC. And then just 2 shifts, 2 tons of barley overall, fermented for each batch was fermented 7 days because we were running 1 shift at the time that we produced this. So a little bit more almost fruity ester notes than you would get from some of our other spirits when we're double shifting. When we do quicker fermentations, you get a little bit different flavor profile. Mm-hmm.
So how many barrels roughly would that be for like a 2 shift, kind of like you just said?
So it's 3 barrels a day, essentially, or really, really close to that with malted barley.
Ooh, that's nice and sweet.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's kind of like, some people bottle this, right, as a white dog.
Yeah.
Isn't, necessarily my favorite thing in the world to go out and get, but it is when you do sip it and you can really appreciate like, oh, this is going to turn into something else down the road. And it's exciting to see what it starts out as, which is why the single malt was the day after the new make. So it's like, here's new make, and here is what most of that spirit is going to turn into in 5 years. And I think that's just a really cool experience to share with people. It's a couple of questions there. Someone asked if we were in the LCBO. We're not yet. I think the BMO there. We're not in the LCBO yet. I don't envision it happening in the next couple of years. Eventually, we're hoping to be there, but it's not at the top of the list yet.
Yeah, we got this one. I thought this was an interesting question here. Tell us about the stills.
Yeah, let's see if I can't get the stills in the picture. So that's one still there. And then we got another still on this side. And then we have our copper pot still, or column still for our gin and vodka as well. So the pot stills are from Scotland, from Forsyth. We had them custom made for us back in 2008. Patrick went to Scotland to do that. Stop shaking there. The one on my left is 5,000 liters. That's our wash still. So that one runs every single day. And we're putting 5,000 liters of wort into there every day. And we're going to yield probably 2,000 liters at 30 to 35% of low wines. There's no cuts. So this still gets very dirty compared to the other still that runs every 2 days. Just because you're putting wort in there. So there's a little bit of yeast in there. Sometimes a little bit of grain makes its way over, and it's just a more flavorful still. The spirit still on my other side gets only clean spirit in there. Runs every 3 shifts essentially, and we're putting 4,000 liters at 30% in there, and we're gonna get 700 liters at 75% out at the end.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 400 liters absolute typically is what we're yielding.
Wow.
I really do like the new make though. It's kind of
honestly, I was gonna say it's got like nice, like I get like a black licorice kind of note on the finish. Up front, there's like some like sweet like fruit or like almost there's vegetal as well. Like it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
Really nice. Really nice.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with it.
Yeah. It's, you know what? It's one of those things that I wish you could do with every kind of whiskey that you try like how it started, because this is essentially what's gone into all of these of it at one point or whatever, right? Well, maybe not this exact style or whatever, but
I mean, that style of spirit is in, I think, 4 of the 5 whiskeys in front of you, or 4 of the 5. So that is our most standardly produced spirit. And then it's what can we change that into? And then as you can see in front of you, I mean, there's 5, 6 different options that we've turned that particular spirit into to taste different, unique, and wonderful. And that's like my favorite part about Shelter Point is just that experimentation that we're able to do here is just phenomenal.
Yeah. There's a question in the chat. It's directed to you. What casks were used for the first? I guess he's talking about the artisanal cask strength single malt 10-year-old, the first one that you guys came out with.
Yeah, the one that came out in July. So we used 3 different casks, ex-bourbon casks. They were from Jack Daniel's originally, and that was single malt. It was actually the spirit in there was put into a cask in July 4th, 2011. And then we pulled it out July 10th, I think, 2021, which is kind of crazy to think about. It's like this finally getting to that 10-year mark and then having the spirit. And we released the cask strength first because it takes time to water whiskey down. So we weren't able to get a 46% out for the summer. Instead, we released our 46 version kind of closer to Christmas. Right. But yeah, three barrels, ex bourbon, all Jack Daniels.
Nice. Yeah. In the Advent calendar, we're up to what, day 6, I guess it is?
Day 6 today, yeah.
Yeah. So there's what did I see recently? So a few of the ones that are on this table are actually behind me as well in the Advent calendar. Let me just grab it.
Yeah, Ripple Rock, Montfort, we've tried so far.
Yep, and the double barrel batch 6, I believe.
Double barrel batch 6, yeah, that was number 4.
Yeah, and then today's was the artisanal single malt, which honestly, like the artisanal single malt is like, I guess that's your bread and butter, your standard single malt that you guys release.
Yeah, that's the most commonly produced whiskey we do. It's available almost all across the world at this point. There's a little bit in California, Australia. We've shipped to Japan, China, the Netherlands, the UK.
That's awesome.
It's a little bit everywhere. Yeah, trying to spread the good word of Shelter Point.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's a great one to kind of like let everybody know where you guys are at and what you're doing, because I love it. I have a bottle of it on my bar all the time, and whenever somebody wants to try something different, I always let them try that first, because I think it's important to, like, for Scotch drinkers, quote unquote, or single malt drinkers anyway, to try something from Canada that can compete, in my opinion. That's exceeding a lot of these 10 and 12-year-old scotches as well. So I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, no, it's just different and fun. We're trying to do, some Scotch style whiskeys like the artisanal single malts and stuff, and then Smoke Point to a kind of a lesser degree because it's a different style.
Mhm.
And then we have some really unique things that you just wouldn't get over there. More New World whiskeys like the single grain, and then the kind of grain blend that you had in your single cask as well,
Yeah.
which is not something you see a lot of out there.
That's true.
And there hasn't been a ton of virgin oak whiskeys or virgin oak single malts either. So we do pride ourselves on being able to try and experiment new things and really try to innovate within the industry to be different. Yeah, stand out.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I think you guys are actually doing it, and it's pretty cool to see firsthand because I feel like I was late to the party, but it's still within Canada it's becoming popular, but like there's still a lot of Americans that are just getting to know Shelter Point, so it's pretty cool.
We're just starting to break into that market, and there's a lot of people. And we just made our first official shipment in September to California, and we're just going to see where it goes from there, and just trying to kind of change some of the old perceptions about Canadian whiskeys as well, because a lot of people only associate it with something to mix with cola.
Yeah.
And we want to kind of change that where it's Canadians can make really premium whiskeys, and it's not just us. You have people like two brewers that are just doing phenomenal things in Eau Claire and Alberta. Just there's lots of phenomenal Canadian whiskeys out there in the market now, and we just want to showcase that and tell everybody across the whole world that Canadian whiskey is coming.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree. I think you nailed it right there. For me, it's something that I've been hoping for a long time. So when I first got into you guys, I was like, wow, like this is exactly what I was hoping for. So moving on to I was looking at the boxes. So these are just like I'm assuming these are holiday boxes. Are they going out to like with all the holiday sales, or how's that working?
Yeah, those are just holiday boxes. I think most of the orders in December, all the whiskeys are mid-December, should get boxes like that.
Right.
Something that we just do for the holidays and kind of testing the market to see what the reception of a box would be with Shelter Point. That's obviously not going to be anything close to what we want to move into long term. We want to really produce a really premium box for the whiskey. That's kind of the goal for 2022 is get the core expressions or the premium expressions in a box. We went down the tube road before, and the prices just don't work in our market right now, just because there's not a lot of producers producing high quality tubes in our area where we can get really premium boxes that are just really high quality and just make you feel comfortable about your purchase, and getting it made locally just helps.
Honestly, I love this box. Like it's very eye-catching personally, and I mean, I don't know if the color scheme is going to be a consistent thing. I guess maybe it's more oriented like towards like the Christmas theme, but
that particular box is just a Christmas only. We only see those boxes in December, and then you'll never see that box. That box goes away in a storage, and we don't talk about it for another year.
Right on. It's awesome though. I like it. It's cool. So then the Prohibition style, like what brought like thought to the name Prohibition? Like, does it have anything to do with it being aged in an Ardbeg cask, or like how did that come into play?
No, that came into play with our recent troubles with our local regional district here on the island, and our closure of our retail store. So Prohibition was kind of, we're still able to kind of do things at the distillery when we were shut down. It was just kind of the retail area and some of the manufacturing stuff. So this was us, working on this whiskey in the background after work at night in the dark, making sure we had something premium to come out. And the back of the label used to actually read quite a bit meaner. We lightened it up a little bit to be more joyful. But it was our kind of it ties into a lot of things. It was mostly about the closure, but it was also, I mean, the Ardbeg, yeah, the cask from Isla,
Right.
uh, using those ones, which we've obviously done that before with our original Smoke Point releases, which are finished in another Isla cask. You know, starts with an L but isn't Lagavulin. And yeah, it's just a really fun whiskey, and we really wanted to have another cask strength 10-year-old for Christmas, because the first 10-year went so fast, and there were so many people that missed bottles and were disappointed. So we already had the 46% one scheduled to be released kind of October, November. And Leon and I went to the warehouse, and we had to go find, we wanted to make sure we had a couple of whiskey, a cask strength 10-year to come out for Christmas, because it's just, cask strength just hits different, I find.
In many ways. When
I drink whiskey, I'm usually looking for cask strength a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Just your palate, it's going to make me seem like an alcoholic, but your palate almost gets numb to 40 and 46% spirit sometimes.
It does.
So I just need a little bit more flavor.
Yeah, that's the running joke with me, is that like I don't know if I have, I don't know, a small handful of bottles that are under 50%. That's for sure.
It just, the more you drink whiskey, it just kind of happens.
Yeah. So P-Bosk is asking, anything new in the works coming in the near future? Stuff that you can share, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we've done some pretty cool things in the last few years. We grew our own wheat and rye, and then we're able to distill those. So the rye is turning 2 years, or they're both turning 2 years in February. So we're really excited about that. We're really trying hard to source some more sherry casks. We have a few kind of sherry-esque barrels. They are sherry butts, but they were used by a Scottish distillery before we got them. So they're not going to be full sherry influence, but we want to really kind of go down that route, and some really premium wine casks as well. Just doing more stuff like that.
Cool.
And probably the big thing is we're going to be adding, we kind of have a core 3 whiskeys in our releases that we produce more of than the others, which is single malt, Montfort, and Smoke Point. In 2022, we're going to be adding an artisanal cask strength to the core expression. So a 5-year-old cask strength single malt is going to be coming in 2022, and that's the thing I'm most excited for, because it's what people have been asking for the most, and we've just been kind of putting it off and doing small releases, because we'll get a lot of non-whiskey drinkers coming to the distillery, and they're off-put by cask strength. Absolutely. They want something lighter, smoother. And so some of the feedback of cask strength whiskeys hasn't always been great here, but we were really confident that when we do release them, they fly off the shelf. So we've fully committed, and we're going to be doing probably like a 15-barrel run of cask strength for 2022. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That'll be really cool. I had the pleasure of meeting one of your people at an event I was at recently. I won't mention names just because I'm not sure if he wants to be mentioned, but I went to that 80-year-old Gordon MacPhail Glenlivet tasting.
Yeah.
And I did mention a cask I had an idea for, but I think I'm going to mention it to you off camera, because I don't want anybody to steal the idea. I want to share with you guys first. So
perfect. I'm already down for it. Whatever it is, we're going to do it, I think.
I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know if it's possible. It's an old style of cask that I don't know. I don't know how we could source it, but if we could, I think it would do really, 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 really well. But whatever. Now all the guys are probably thinking like, oh, well, what the hell is it? But anyway.
Yeah, what is it? They're going to start seeing guesses in there. Is it going to be a rum cask? Is it going to be what are we feeling here?
Yeah, exactly. So this 10-year-old, it's finished for how many?
6 months, I think.
Is it 6 months?
Yeah.
It's honestly, it is super. It's definitely very different than this cask strength 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Nose is different. The palate, you get a lot of that Isla cask.
Yeah.
BMO saying pre-war Armagnac casks. That's not a bad idea right there. Actually, that's actually a great idea.
That's not bad. If we can get them, we will use them. Yeah. There's nothing we won't try once.
Richard is asking how the hell you missed us doing this. Well, you're here now, Richard. That's all that matters. I really like this. I think it's great. On the palate, it does not drink like cask strength at all, in my opinion.
It goes down too smooth almost. It's almost dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
And when we first were doing that batch, I mean, we kind of intended to probably do a batch strength whiskey in the mid 50s was sort of what we were looking, low to mid 50s. And it was just so smooth after we kind of had it batted, because like each individual cask sample wasn't that smooth. It wasn't bad by any means. It just wasn't, that kind of buttery smoothness that you get.
Yeah.
And then once we blended it together, I mean, we always joke about it. The blending is probably the most complicated or most important part here to me, because you can take 5 whiskeys that all rank a 5 out of 10. And if you are a master blender, you can make that a 10 out of 10 whiskey, because if you're just filling in certain notes that certain whiskeys are lacking, and Leon just has that kind of gift for doing things like that. So these whiskeys, we're all like 8s out of 10s. And then when you put them together, it's a 9.5, 10 out of 10 whiskey, I think. Yeah. I think it's one of the best expressions we've released.
I love it. I think it's fantastic. What's interesting, I wonder if it has anything to do with the vatting process and like oxygen getting into the actual whiskey to kind of mellow it out, or like, I don't know.
It all helps. We charcoal filter things as well, which helps kind of we always find that it takes a lot of heat away and leaves 99.9% of the flavor. In our experiences, just pre-filtered, post-filtering. So we've always kind of been a big proponent of that, and we don't shy away from that, because it does make a big difference. Often we don't always do the peat ones through a filter because we're scared we're going to lose the peatiness. Yeah. So we're so particular about making sure in the few peat releases we have that as much peat stays in there as possible, because Leon and I, we really love drinking aggressively peaty whiskeys a lot of the time in our free time.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Ardbeg obviously is big in our books, and I've been lucky enough to become friends with Bry from Ardbeg, and he came up here a few months ago, right after we got the casks, and just had a phenomenal time and going through some different Ardbeg whiskeys, and then just other peaty whiskeys. Two Brewers has a wonderfully peaty whiskey as well. Anything peat is perfect in my books.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I love peat. I'm the camera is not catching the peat side. Well, the stuff on this side is the stuff I haven't reviewed yet. The stuff on this side is the stuff I have, and there's a whole shelf dedicated to peated stuff. So perfect. Yeah. But honestly, it drinks ridiculously smooth. I didn't know about the charcoal filtering. What kind of what are you guys using for charcoal?
Just like a plain carbon filter, like the same that you would use to do vodka. So vodka by law has to be at 40% and then go through a carbon filter, it has to go through carbon. So we have just these little carbon filters that we use for the vodka, and we started using back in 2016 for some of our other whiskeys, just kind of pushing it through pretty quickly. So it's just not impacting too much, but it seems to just smoothen out the flavors for us in our experience. And we've done whiskeys without it and had more negative results, in our opinion. So we've just kind of haven't messed with the formula too much in that sense. Because we try every whiskey, obviously, unfiltered after we batch together. And then from there, we determine kind of, should this go, shouldn't, what's going to be best for us moving forward. Right.
Well, honestly, I keep going back to this Ripple Rock. Honestly, I'm in love with Ripple Rock. I every year you guys put this out, I'm definitely gonna have to have a bottle, but luckily I have a backup of the first batch. I was I had it on the shelf where I've already reviewed it, and I kind of whatever, and I didn't open it yet. And then this came, and I was like, okay, I get to take this bottle off the shelf, and I can just go with batch 2 instead of opening my backup batch 1.
Yeah, Virgin Oak whiskey is just hit a little bit different. I love Virgin Oak single malts. That's probably one of the things I didn't know I was going to like as much as I ended up liking it. And batch 1 was so phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was really hard to kind of recreate that, honestly, because it was so well received and it was such a perfect kind of whiskey expression. And
yeah, it's ridiculously good in my opinion. I love that batch 1. I think I have it right here. Well, I have a tier in my Patreon, well, 2 tiers with my Patreon, and basically in the next 2 or 3 months, they're doing a little competition, and the winner gets a Shelter Point bottle. I figured, because a lot of them are American, I figured I'd give away a Shelter Point bottle that I have, because a lot of them don't get a chance to try them. So it's fun because with this tier, I send them drams once a month, and I'm sending them Shelter Points and those types of things that they don't actually get to taste, and they're drinking them blind, so they have no idea what they're drinking. And a lot of times, the reception is such a awesome thing. So seeing them compare it to 18-year-old Aaron or whatever, it's just wow, that's awesome. You could tell you guys are making some really quality stuff, because these guys are drinking it all blind and they're guessing really high end stuff. So
that's good. That's good to hear. It's always fun because there are some conceived ideas about, Canadian whiskeys or non-Scotch whiskeys. And then when you sneak in something in there and they can't tell the difference, and it's kind of satisfying from a distillery perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, you go to some of these, I've done tastings all across kind of North America, and you have these ideas Canadian whiskey, it's terrible. It's well, that was actually number 4 on your out of 6, and you ranked it number 1. So it's not that bad.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's the best. That shows that you guys are doing something really quality there, right? Because the biases are eliminated from a blind tasting, and it's just the whiskey speaks for itself. And as soon as people hear the word Canadian, they start to cringe a little bit, but they're tasting it, they're loving it. And honestly, it's been, well, Richard's talking about my single barrel here, but it's really cool watching a handful of American people that are not able to taste Shelter Point really enjoy Shelter Point in a blind tasting too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're getting into that question. I mean, for sure, Richard, we're going to do another one with Rob. He's got to work out the details here, get him some whiskeys and move forward with that. And maybe try something even more different than what we've previously done in the past.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna run my idea when we go off camera. I'm gonna run my idea by you, and we'll get into that. But I think I've been saving this idea for you guys, because there's a couple other distilleries that I was should I tell them? No,
No. We like that. We respect that, and we appreciate that.
I think honestly, we'll see. I want to hear what you have to say about it anyway. But moving on. So when did this Smoke Point Batch 3 come out?
August of 2021.
Okay, so recently.
Yeah.
Anything different about the way you approach this one, or is it a little bit older than years past?
A little bit older. That's a big thing. More time in the quarter casks from Isla, from that distillery that shall not be named, and it's just older. In different ABV than the previous one and the inaugural one. So the first one was finished at 55. The second one was at 50, and this one was at 53. And we just sort of, each time we batch it, me and Leon and James and Patrick usually gets involved, and we just kind of go through it, and we do this thing that when I say it out loud, it's going to make us seem like we're alcoholics, but it does work. So we'll finish the whiskeys. We have a pretty good idea going into it, whether it's going to be below or above kind of 52% ABV. So we'll take the whiskey, we take it at cask strength, then we take one at 57, 55, 53, maybe 50. You take these 5 bottles home. We all take them home. And then this is on a Friday night usually. And then whatever bottle is most empty on Saturday morning is typically the ABV that we determine to be for bottling. And this is something that Leon brought over from Scotland, and is surprisingly effective, because there's some whiskeys that you do try and you maybe have 1 dram at cask strength, and you're wow, that's that one up. If it's just 1 sip, that might be the best. But sometimes you find that you'll never go back for a second one because it's got too much of something.
Yeah.
Like it's really unique, but it's just missing something. Like I feel that way about sour beers too. Like
Yeah.
I don't mind one, but I'm never gonna have two of them.
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you on that for sure.
And we found that we were often having the same results the next day. Or like, I prefer 53. Like it's just the one that was most approachable to go back to when I was looking for that second shot, where 55 was not ideal and 50 wasn't enough. Like it's just this kind of fun. And these aren't big bottles. We're taking like 2 ounce bottles home, 3 ounce bottles. So
I was gonna say the clarification I think was necessary though.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want anyone to see this and just be like, oh, well, they drink, 5 2.6s every Friday night. It's only like once a year we do that.
That's awesome. I love it.
Richard's got it. Yeah. Lafroig Distillery. That's about pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I saw this comment from a couple of people about the peat bogs in Canada. We have lots of peat bogs. We actually have lots of peat bogs on Vancouver Island. We actually found a peat bog on a neighboring farm, 20 minutes down the road. And we went and we dug up, Patrick and I went and probably dug up like about a metric ton of peat. Oh, wow. And we were trying to smoke it with our commercial smoker we have on site, just to see if we could, in the future, smoke our own barley or smoke our own casks, like our smoke and oak expression. And we were just playing around with that, seeing what we could do, what the curing process has to be to properly cure peat to be most effective moving forward in the future. And that's something that, when we were asked what's new down the road that's exciting, that's an experiment I'm really excited to push forward on in the future. Yeah. We're not going to see the results of that probably until, sadly, close to like 2030. But it's something that, it's probably going to take us a few years to hammer out and perfect, but it's something that we're really passionate about and we're going to be doing as much as possible in the future. It's one of those things that we're not going to be able to rush it. And there's going to be a lot of trial and error on a project like that, because it's not as easy as just digging it up and then smoking it and then leaving. It's the peat needs to cure. Should it cure for a year? Should it cure for 6 months? Or is it just a week? And what's going to yield the best results moving forward? Because there's not a lot of people that are using peat for that purpose up here. Almost nobody. Most people just dump it in their garden. So
well, that's when I bring it up, a lot of people think that that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I mean, is it, as far as like the smoking process, what are some of the notes that you're getting off on the nose, like when you're smoking it, like when you guys experimented with it, like what did it like smell palatable kind of thing?
A lot of it is palatable, really medicinal, a little bit of iodine, almost like Band-Aids. Okay. Some of it, like when we took it right out of the dirt and tried to smoke it that day, I mean, it smelled like burnt dirt. It was terrible. Once we let it dry out, we were putting things in the boiler room and to dry out a little bit quicker during the distillation process and try to speed that process up. It's something we can't obviously do too effectively because we're limited in space, but the drier it is, the better the flavor profile that comes off. And then it seems that we're able to more effectively have those phenols that are coming off that peat adhere to not only the spirit, but the cask as well. We admittedly haven't done a lot of smoking of grain yet, but that's something that we're playing around with a little bit more.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to speak to this, but recently Leon made an announcement on his YouTube channel. So this is the question. I don't know if you want to look at it or speak to it.
Yeah. Leon he's kind of had this kind of, or you can speak on it more. He's always kind of wanted to do the self contracting, and we're going to be bringing Leon back after the holidays. I think he's going to Scotland here pretty quick, and I talk to Leon every couple of days still, so we're still on really, really good terms, and it was just kind of a change in kind of leadership around here, and he's still going to be coming in and consulting for us, and we knew this is always something that he was looking at because he's also gotten into mortgage brokering as well.
Okay.
which is really, really cool and interesting. And it's exciting to see what that's going to do for him as well. But I'm not concerned that Leon's going too far away, Richard. He couldn't if he tried. We would just leash him up and bring him back here.
That's awesome. This is an interesting question. Well, with marijuana being legal in Canada, I don't know what kind of whiskey this would create, but if it would be tasty at all, but I guess it's possible to do.
Yeah. Cannabis is a wonderfully interesting kind of botanical to play with. Whether it would be smoking it into a cask, or smoking it into, or we've talked about blending it into the gin and having like a cannabis infused gin is something that we've always played with. And it's mostly about licensing for the most part.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the legalities around that, because the LDB doesn't want us just throwing cannabis in things. Because I don't know I haven't done a ton of research on it personally, so I don't know what the odds of anything transferring over are. A bit expensive. It's a little bit expensive for sure. Wouldn't be the cheapest botanical out there. Probably not the most expensive either, though, sadly. So,
well, I bet if you guys grew it yourself, it would be fine. But like, what's the allowance for? Like, I know individual household, you can do 4 plants in Canada, right? So,
familiar with these rules. I like it.
Yeah, well, I have 2 brothers that endeavor quite often, so I'm more of a Scotch guy, but they like their edibles. So, but yeah, so 4 per household. What would be like the farm kind of allowance?
We would probably just get a license and grow commercial, and we've done that. Like last year, we grew commercial hemp.
Okay.
Another company kind of rented out the farm and did it, but we, were able to be there hands-on and, and something to play with. Probably waiting for kind of the government to put more mandates in regarding that, because there's more people asking those types of questions. Can we infuse it into the whiskey? Can we infuse it into gin or vodka? Because as soon as they open that up, the floodgates are going to blow open and everyone's going to be doing it, because it's something that people are kind of looking for. Like probably more in gin, I would say, than whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it would. I don't want to say it would bastardize the experience with whiskey, but like I do feel like it would change. It would change the game. Maybe it would be a good thing. Maybe it wouldn't. But I don't know. I just can't see it being tasty.
You're probably doing more harm to whiskey than benefits overall. Like I can see a lot of benefits to infusing cannabis with like kind of gins and vodkas and beers even, but the style of whiskey that we're producing here, it probably doesn't lend itself well to blending it with cannabis. Honestly, you're probably devaluing your spirit, where if you were to infuse it with a clear spirit, you'd be adding value. So I don't see us infusing our whiskey casks with cannabis anytime soon, but never say never, because I mean we'll try anything once. Yeah.
So BMO's asking, he's a scapegrace guy, which actually I really enjoy as well. Yeah, and he's asking if you guys make anything close. So I've got your gin here in the advent calendar.
Yeah. Same calendar. Look at my calendar below me.
I keep calling it an advent calendar. I apologize. It's not an advent calendar. It's a
12 days. I call it an advent calendar because everyone's like, well, what does that mean? What is the 12 days of Christmas? And it's like, it's a half of an advent calendar because we didn't have 24 things to put in there, or 25 things. So scapegrace is going to be a little bit different than ours. I mean, ours is more of a London dry, citrus forward gin opposed to scapegrace, which is more reliant on other botanicals, I would say. And I mean, scapegrace is phenomenal. And one of our old sales reps used to represent scapegrace, so I was fortunate to try some, but they're going to be different. And we only have the one gin right now.
Yeah. So Thomas is asking, any 2022 festival plans? I don't know if I guess that would be directed at you guys. I'm not sure what kind of is there BC festivals for whiskey?
Yeah, Victoria Whiskey Fest, a fairly large spirit festival or whiskey fest out here. It
Yeah.
was happening. I saw yesterday on another guy's page that they had suspended some ticket sales. I'm intending on, we're doing a master class if it does go, and we're going to be pouring 8 to 10 whiskeys, and
Nice.
and then I'll go down to Victoria, and then we got Whiskey Global, which is in Vancouver in the new year as well. So we attend most of the festivals as much as possible. We did Winnipeg Whiskey Fest a few years ago, and
Have you ever done Spirit of Toronto in Toronto?
we haven't done anything with the LCBO. They're a little mean to us.
Yeah. They suck.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
But we are looking at some of the other ones in the other provinces as well. Like I know New Brunswick's got a phenomenal whiskey festival. Quebec has a phenomenal one, and we have sold to the SAQ before, so those things might be more on the horizon. I mean, Banff Whiskey Festival is a phenomenal experience as well. Like, if anyone could ever, if you have a time off, and it's usually in September, Banff Whiskey Fest is a fun time because I mean, just hanging out in Banff. You know, I go up for the week usually, go snowboarding with my wife, and just it's a fun time.
Yeah. Well, I can fit about maybe 40 people in my basement if we squeeze. So if you want to come to Toronto,
I could see us doing something like that. It's a lot more realistic than doing something with the LCBO anytime soon. I know that I know Bry from Ardbeg has done some tastings in regards to pouring Shelter Point at the Caledonian and stuff. In the past on our behalf without asking. He just, he gets some bottles every now and then, and he goes and pours them for people. And
nice.
We have a surprisingly large support group out of Ontario. It's crazy how much we ship out there, honestly.
Yeah. So actually, can we speak to that a little bit? Like, what's the process? Like these guys watching now, how do they get Shelter Point? Like, what can they do to go get Shelter Point right now?
Yeah, online through our website, shelterpoint.ca. You can go on, order anything that's currently available, and have it shipped directly to your house. I mean, I know Richard's done that quite a few times, and yourself as well, Rob. So so we do ship all across Canada currently.
Awesome. And this is something that we need more from like Canadian distilleries to be able to do, because I mean, all these guys are asking me, how do I get Shelter Point? How do I get Shelter Point? Well, just go directly to the distillery now. That's an option for people really wanting to get Shelter Point, which wasn't always the case, right?
No, it's hit and miss on and off with out of province. So we can't ship to the US currently either. I said Joseph there. The only spot in the US, there's Whiskey in California. I don't really know where it is. I know it's down there. But you can buy directly from us. And then we only sell to a handful of provinces right now on a large scale. So it's just BC, Alberta, and Manitoba. So like the MBLL has it if you are kind of close to that border. They do carry some things, and they get their own single casks as well. Usually once a year, they'll do a MBLL exclusive. So those are always really interesting. And I know the Winnipeg Whiskey Club always does tastings every time a Shelter Point whiskey comes out. They do a master class tied into that. So it's always fun.
Nice.
Depending on what side of Ontario you're on, that's an option. The more west you are, the better option that is. I wouldn't maybe drive there from the east side. But,
I did mention earlier that on my Patreon, I'm going to be giving away a Shelter Point bottle. I noticed Joseph Horton asked. So I'm going to let you decide which bottle it is.
Perfect.
It's between the Artisanal Cask Strength 57.2%, the KWM exclusive single cask 59%.
Is that rye?
So no, this is the single malt. Yeah, this is the single malt. This is that yellow label that they did. Right. So that's an option. And then the Smoke Point 50% is another option.
Yeah.
These are all the backups that I bought of all the bottles.
We've got a handful of whiskeys there.
I still have another six Shelter Points under here that I could choose from if I wanted And then of course, my own personal. Well, I'm not going to give away number 6 because I decided to keep that one for myself. But
Yeah, perfect.
Maybe number 1 of the single cask peat.
That would be, I mean, without hearing the other options, number 1 of anything is always a phenomenal gift and opportunity, because everyone always thinks that we like that we keep the number 1s at the distillery. That's not remotely true. We don't keep any of the. We never pay enough attention to keep the numbers, and we think it's more exciting if number 1 is out there in the world. We always end up with like the last barrel or the last bottle. When you keep, because I have one of every whiskey that we've ever produced at my house.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
And I have no fun numbers at home. I have just kind of like whatever middle of the row, because we want number 1s and those low numbers and those special numbers to go out there for people. And number 1 of anything is amazing because there's only one of them.
Well, for me, it's always, I mean, I'm biased, of course, but I always like having the number 6 because.
Well, of course. I mean, I have a friend who his brother's a lawyer. Every release that we do that have numbers, he buys bottle 666. And I set it aside, and the bottling staff knows, like, when they get there, they put 666 aside for my buddy Craig, and he comes, the Monday after every release, and he ships it to his brother, who's a lawyer in California.
Nice. That's awesome.
It's just, people have numbers. There was an army man that comes up here for those releases, and he matches it up with, his squadron number. So he always gets kind of 412. So it's fun when you have a number that you can kind of associate to other things in your life and be able to share that kind of experience and collection with and telling those stories. That's what whiskey is all about. It's about sharing it with friends, family, and new acquaintances.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I'll let you choose which one I give away to the patrons, but Joseph Horton is one of the patrons that was wondering.
Yeah, I think number 1, it's got to be. I mean, the artisanal cask strength is really interesting because that whiskey hasn't been produced in numerous years. So that's probably, and that style of whiskey we're not going to do again because that's actually a malt and rye blend.
Yeah, malt and rye blend. That's right.
Yeah. And we're probably not in that style, not in that name. We won't do something like that again. That was back in 2016. We thought the rye was actually a detriment to our warehouse, and we didn't want to explain it to people. So we were kind of blending it away with other things, and it tastes really good, but we didn't realize how rare the opportunity we had with all that rye, and which has kind of had its own cult following since then because it won best rye in Canada a few times. So.
Well, this one happens to be bottle number 2 of 1088. So
that's crazy. That's awesome and crazy. That's hilarious.
Yeah, exactly.
You see a couple questions in the chat, Cars and Cubes. Why aren't they all numbered? The bottling staff got really mad. One of our inaugural runs of single malt, there was like 18,000 bottles, and they got really bitter around bottle number 10,000. They I don't want to say they refused, but they almost walked out. About their hands cramping, and it was a terrible time. So right now the rule of thumb is usually if the release is under, I think it's like 1,200 bottles, we'll number them, and anything over, we stop numbering. Just because there's so many of them, and it's only going to keep growing and growing. So we really wanted to limit the numberings to either really limited batches, and then all the single casks are always hand numbered because anything like that's always going to be numbered. But yeah, they were not thrilled. A lot. And then I saw another question from Donald there, and I've seen the question a couple times: an Irish single pot still with malted and unmalted combo. We've actually done that quite a bit. So when we first started doing the raw barley unmalted that you get in the Montfort, we did that for the first kind of 3 years. And then in 2017, or I guess 5 years, 6 years, 2016, 2017, when Leon came on board, he had this idea about doing more of a traditional Irish blend. So instead of using raw barley and enzymes, is there enough extra enzymes in malted barley to help convert the starch to sugars with the unmalted? and what's that ratio and combination look like. So we started doing those experiments back in 2017 and have had really fascinating results. Nothing is probably going to come out until 2022, 2023 in that style, like late 2022. But we have been doing more of that traditional Irish style spirit with doing half and half in the malt to unmalted in the mash tun. So we are going to be doing that, and it's phenomenal as well. And 50-50 is actually the ratio that we use for our clear spirits here. So the vodka and the gin, the clear spirits are all made up of 50% malted and 50% unmalted, all of which comes directly from Shelter Point farms. So that's kind of an exciting thing as well.
Nice. Yeah. Awesome. So most of these are, I guess they're directed to you, but some of them are putting my name in to get my attention. So
yeah,
we got Richard, who's saying he's going to be taking a whole bunch of Shelter Points to North Ireland next summer.
Perfect. Got to spread the good word.
That's it. That's it. There was I feel like I missed a couple. Sorry guys, if I'm missing some of the conversation in the background. I trying to go back and forth, and also like the camera's up here, so I'm looking down at the chat, or I'm looking at Jacob, and it looks like I'm not making eye contact with anybody, but I'm actually looking at the camera's higher up.
I put my laptop like up high so that I could read the comments, because I've done it before where I'm like looking down like with my other camera that I
use. So I've improved the camera that I use for my lives, but the problem is that it's not in line with the actual computer that. So
yeah, and I don't mind. I've been kind of going through some of the comments too, and like Thomas Perry said, like that ANL or ANBL sucks, which is New Brunswick. They're not terrible, honestly. We've been working with them, and I do envision that Shelter Point will be in New Brunswick in the new year. I would say like 85% for sure.
Wow.
Does Shelter Point do sleepovers? I mean, I've been known not to go home after a tough night of tastings, and usually we're not alone when we do that.
Yeah, I can imagine it getting a little messy on nights that you're trying to, do the tastings or pick a cask or do any of that kind of stuff. So you guys recently switched warehouses. I won't keep you too much longer. I want to get to the last one.
Yep.
But is there like a specific spot in the old warehouse versus the new warehouse, or both, that is creating like the honey barrel kind of like the ideal, what you guys are looking for?
So the really cool thing about the old warehouse was kind of the low ceilings. And the reason that we have to change it is also because of the low ceilings, because it doesn't really meet fire suppression standards, which we were aware of when we did it originally, because it was only supposed to be temporary when we first moved it. And then we really liked how it was doing, because all of that air kind of got stuck down low with the casks. And it was really cool because you would see rye whiskeys, 100% rye whiskeys, situated beside 100% malt whiskeys, and those rye whiskeys would be picking up some of those malt notes, and then vice versa. Some of the single malt, directly beside, was picking up some of those kind of pencil shaving notes that you get from rye, and it was really interesting, and that was really exciting to try. But the big honey spots were we had the room situated with a heat pump, but we rarely turn the heat pumps on, just because it never gets cold enough to justify it often here. So, but when we did, you would notice that the spirits underneath of the heater, their evaporation rate was 7%, but the spirit was phenomenal, but there was very little left within those casks, because 7% compounded annually adds up quite quickly.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And so the interaction with the wood is great, but the angel share is absurd. So
I saw that question from Joseph. Yeah.
So thank you very much for the super chat, Joseph. Go ahead. You can answer that question.
Yeah. We would never say no to an independent bottler. I won't say which independent bottler, but we have sent whiskey to Scotland to an independent bottler to be privately bottled, and will be their first whiskey ever from Canada bottled for their company.
Wow.
So
So you're not allowed to share which one.
I don't think so. I'm not really sure. I'm scared to say.
Okay.
But I will say that the independent bottler has been named within the chat. So
okay, there you go. All right.
Scroll it up and you see how many have been named. You'll find out pretty quickly who it is.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So they've been named already. Yeah. There's only been a couple.
There's only been one.
There's only been one. That's awesome. Yeah. So that's very cool that they decided to do that, and they've explored quite a few. So
they've done a lot of different options, and they've went through. I met with them. I went to the World Whisky Forum in Seattle in 2020, like right before. I mean, COVID had hit Seattle, but we went down there, and I met with some of their head buyers, and they were just really excited about the opportunity. And then we had a lot of support from some of their Canadian chapters, pushing for us. So we have sent them off. I have no idea like what their bottling schedule is, what they're doing to those whiskeys or anything. I just know that they paid me money for them. So they have 3 full casks of whiskey in Scotland right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the 3 that we tasted tonight. And we also talked about the Montfort. Yeah. Did you wanna quickly go through the double barrel, and then we'll wrap it up, and then let you get on with your evening, because I know that you spend lots of time at that distillery. So I'm assuming on a Sunday night it's not always your ideal place to be, but
there are worse places to be stuck. I mean, I have a hockey game at 10 o'clock at night, so I just there you go. I think I was coming here, and then I'm probably just going straight to hockey. So
nice, awesome.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to go put my kids to bed though before. That might get me out of some trouble later.
There you go. See, yeah, I know all about that.
Yeah, double barrel batch 6 is like I love double barreled whiskeys. Wine was the first style of whiskey that I really fell in love with when I first started working here, because I came to Shelter Point straight out of high school, and whiskey, specifically premium whiskeys, weren't at the top of my list of things that I wanted to drink. It was more of a job than a love at that time. It didn't hurt that I was also dating the founder's daughter. I mean, that helped. And and now we're married, so I think that makes it okay.
Yeah,
I like to tell people that I came here for the brunette and I stayed for the whiskey. The marketing team hates that, but yeah.
That's awesome.
So batch 5 also finished in a Costa Black Blackberry Port style cask. Costa Black is 10 minutes away from us. So batch 5 won Best Canadian Single Malt at the Canadian Whiskey Awards last year. This one finished for 99 days. And what's really, really cool about it, specifically this release compared to some of the previous ones, was Terry at Costa Black is an amazing human. So we had bought some French oak casks for them, guaranteeing us that we get them when he's done. Like, he's going to use them for a lot of time, and then we get them as soon as possible.
Right.
Casks were vatted with wine at 9 a.m. and then we had whiskey in them by 9:30. So the turnaround time was just crazy when you think about it. Because he literally dumped them out, threw them in the back of his pickup truck, rushed up here where we had spirit ready to go, because we knew that it was going to be within a week. Like probably sometime in the next week I'm going to be dumping these out, and I'll get them to you within the week of me vatting them. It's like, oh, perfect. Like, because sometimes you get wine barrels that are dried right out, and you have to rehydrate them, and you're losing some flavor during some of those processes, because some of the hydration methods that we've used in the past involve kind of steaming the barrels, and sometimes you cook some of that flavor out. Yeah. So the fresher the barrel, the better. And we leave all that sludge in there that comes with wine, because the whiskey will just evaporate it and absorb it, and it's wonderful. It makes filtering a giant pain in the butt, but it's really hard to filter wine sediment out. And the amount of filters that double barreled goes through is insane. And there's still a little bit of sediment in there because you just can't, you can't filter it enough. But you get them within the hour that they're dumped out, and we fill them up, and you're just getting all of that wonderful freshness. You're getting all that raw oak tannins. You're getting that sweetness from the wine. It was one of my favorite styles of wine. And I really like fruit wine specifically because it's a little bit sweeter. And I love getting those fruity notes because I think it can, I think it goes really well and pairs really wonderful with some of the fruity notes that you get from whiskeys as well.
Right.
Some kind of like that apple banana off our base single malts, and then you pair that with a little bit of berry, and I just kind of like almost like a fruit salad
Yeah.
style of whiskey, and I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. The batch 5 was awesome. This is really awesome as well.
Yeah.
This one is 46%. The batch 5, was it 46 as well?
Batch 5 is 40, or I don't know off the top of my head. It might have been 50. I think it was 46.
I feel like it might be 50. Yeah.
It might be 50.
Yeah.
They vary from between 46 and 50.
Right.
And we did 2 batches last year. So we did batch 4 and batch 5. So I get them confused when they're not directly in front of me. But batch 5 was very well received, to say the least, and won a few awards.
Yeah.
You know, topping off with the Canadian Whiskey Award for Best Single Malt, and we tied with 2 breweries as well, I should say. One of, I think it was released 22, which is an honor to share that prestigious award with, another phenomenal whiskey distillery like them.
Yeah, they're doing a great job as well. Okay, so we've talked about the whiskeys. We talked about what's happening next with Shelter Point. When, I guess, is the last question. Like, when's the next release kind of thing?
The next release, yeah. I think the next release is scheduled for the distillery is going to be for February, and we're going to be hoping to do a single cask for February. Is the plan. And then we also will be doing the next batch of the collective expression, which is a fun whiskey that we do where all the staff members get to pick a cask and we blend them together, kind of like Glenfiddich Project 20, kind of in that similar vein, but we don't have 20 staff members. So it's a lot less whiskeys. It'll be 5 of us. And usually Leon and I don't get involved in those too much.
Oh, okay.
We sample the whiskeys before the staff gets to try them, just to make sure that everyone's getting a pretty high quality option to choose from. But we don't give anybody the same whiskeys to try, really. So we make sure the same whiskey isn't selected twice. So staff member 1 gets whiskeys 1 through 5. If they choose number 1, staff member 2 gets whiskeys 2 through 6. So we're making sure that we're not doubling up. And the first expression was interesting. We had a single malt, we had a wheat, we had a single malt in a peat barrel, we had a virgin oak, and then we had a raw barley, unmalted barley in a wine barrel. And it just made for a really fun and interesting expression.
Yeah, cool. So that's coming out in February for those who are wondering. Yeah. And if you want any of these others that are still available, if they're still available,
if they're still available.
On the website, is the Ripple Rock still available?
I think so. It shouldn't be sold out yet, but it's probably getting close because we had a pretty good weekend after it was number 1 in the Advent calendar. Okay. So we had a good day after that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, no, honestly, these are all great. So as soon as these guys taste them, they're going to want to buy them. Like I said, I will be giving away a Shelter Point bottle to one of my Patreons, or the one that guesses. Well, basically, the way it's going to work is they have to get, I think I said 6 or 10. I can't remember exactly how many guesses correct in the next couple months. And then the winner gets a Shelter Point bottle. So that's coming up soon. Any final thoughts you want to say? Anything else? We're going to sign up, but make sure you stay on because I want to talk to you before you and I log off, but we're going to say goodbye to our guests very soon.
I just want to thank you for having me. Love this opportunity. I see a couple of questions I could hammer out. P-Boss, what whiskey would I choose? I mean, I would choose Rob Single Cask Peat personally. But if it's one of the available whiskeys, I'd be going to Ripple Rock right now because virgin oak whiskeys they hit different. And the next 10-year Whiskey 8 is going to be coming out in July in conjunction with our kind of opening, our first bottling. So probably around Canada Day, if I was to guess. And then, yeah, just thank you, Rob, for having me once again. You know, it's a pleasure and an honor to do this with you. And I thank you for the opportunity.
The pleasure and honor is mine, my friend. Hopefully this is one of many in the near future, and we can do this more often.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day I can do it sitting right beside you in that distillery right there.
I think we'll get you here, you know, right beside my Christmas tree, right beside one of these stills. We'll do something here one day.
That would be awesome.
Fun.
That's the plan. Well, I need to. I mean, I spent a very short time in Vancouver a couple weeks ago, and I really like the biggest regret of it is that I couldn't stay longer to come see you guys. But
yeah, it's a tough. But yeah. you got to try an 80-year-old whiskey, which you know.
Hey, it was a like, you know,
it's a good trade-off.
It was a decent runner-up, I guess.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. I really appreciate it. This was an honor, like I said, and we'll do this again for sure very soon.
Perfect. Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, guys, for joining us. Hope to see you guys soon. If I don't see you guys before in a live or anything like that, happy holidays, be safe, and take care.
Yeah.
Oh, what's going on here? Trying to end the broadcast, and it's
without stopping it.
It's right clicking. I'm not sure what's happening here. Launch. Hold on a sec here. Let's try this one more time. Here we go.